At the bottom of
Okay,
the controls, there, it's
we're
on.
recording now.
Says, yes, this session is being recorded, so it
Yeah,
must be on.
okay. Hi, everyone. Let's see. We've got Erica, Julia, and Santa. Welcome back to our online foundations course. Today we'll be talking about independent practice. We'll be quickly reviewing guided practice, talking mostly about independent practice. We'll have some time for discussion and trying to create some independent practices for some sample activities. We'll go over the final project, what it looks like, the independent section of it, independent practice section. And then if there's any reminders, I'm not sure actually. We'll see. And then Christine's not with us today too. She's got a mock trial going on with her team. But Daphne or Carol, you want to say anything before we jump in?
Um, I'm curious about how are any of the three of you going to sign up, or have you signed up for units from continuing education?
I did.
Who's I?
Julia. Sorry.
Okay,
I'm gonna do the units for this class. This is Erica.
thank you.
To Erica and Julia. Okay. All right, here we go.
Good, thank you.
So hopefully by the end of this session, you'll have a more solid understanding of independent practice. I can answer any of your questions. We can clear up misunderstandings and learn from each other. Here we go. Quick review, guided practice. So what is the objective? Help students internalize the new material, provide students with the opportunity to use it in a non-threatening environment. Remember all this? Provide teachers with students with constant feedback, and let us know if we're ready to move on. It's that it happens mostly, it's all in the classroom, right after the comprehensible input, and yeah, quick. Just review again, it's structured, familiar, linguistically safe, um, frequent feedback. It should all be in the target language, just like the comprehensible input, all in the target language, tied to the objective, culturally authentic, and then remember mechanical, meaningful to communicative. I think that's on the next slide here. Here we go. The mechanical, remember, was just purely manipulative. They're practicing the spelling of the word, or they're repeating the word after the teacher and practicing pronunciation, or they're writing the verb conjugations over and over again. It's all mechanical. Understanding is not essential. They don't have to have a clue what they're saying. The activity is an artificial use of the language. They would never really do that in the real world, walk down the street and recite verb conjugations. So that's our mechanical guided practice. And then we're not supposed to spend a whole lot of time there, but progress to meaningful and then hopefully communicative by the end. And so meaningful guided practice, where the response is predictable. When I ask them, trying to think of something, like the AB activities, they have a list of answers to my questions, and I have the answers to their questions. And the question is, I don't know, what is George's favorite color? And on their paper, it says George, orange. So they said George's favorite color is orange, and there's one right answer, and all the answers are there for them. They do have to understand the question to know what, to understand. And the activity is a little bit, it's more realistic use of language, but it's a very controlled environment. You ask the question even in a slightly different way, and all of a sudden they don't understand you. But that's our meaningful. And then communicative, our response is unpredictable, and the understanding is meaning is essential, and new information may be exchanged. Who knows how they're going to answer that question? What did you do this weekend? It's a very open-ended question. There's not just one right answer. There are multiple right answers, and who knows what's going to happen. And the activity is based on an authentic use of language. Somebody would actually really say these things and do these things in the target culture. That kind of, here we go. And our big goal here is communication. So guided practice. You're working through mechanical to meaningful to communicative, and then what's next after that? Okay, so another thing, remember that these activities should include everything, right? Reading, writing, listening, speaking, viewing, watching TV. Okay, and then independent practice. I like to think of it as and if you saw the video, you probably saw this too. When a little kid is learning how to ride a bike, a lot of times the first thing they do is they watch people ride the bike. And that, that's kind of like setting the stage. They look out their window and they see someone, wow, riding a bike, that looks like fun. I want to learn how to do that. And so you've hooked their interest, right? And so what comes after, go ahead and just shout out or type in the box. What comes right after setting the stage? What's next? Wait for someone. We have to. There we go. Thank you, Julia. Comprehensible input, right? So we've hooked their interest. That little kid is super excited to ride the bike, and now comprehensible input. Okay. Well, after we get the bike, right, we're gonna talk about how we wear a helmet and show them the different parts of the bike, and they could watch the teacher or the parent get on the bike and ride around, so they're watching. And comprehensible input. Maybe you're showing them different parts of the bike, or the handlebars is where you're going to put your hands and your feet, and you're showing them and giving them the input. And then after comprehensible input, we have, go ahead and type in the box or share out with the mic. Comprehensible input leads to input. I'm waiting. Did we forget? No. Comprehensible input starts with a G. So in silence. GP. Thank you, Carol Brown.
GP.
GP stands for guided. There it is. Thank you, Erica. All right. So guided practice. Okay. So now, all right, let's get the kid on the bike. Let's let them try it out on their own. But notice, I love this picture right here. Dad's hanging on. It's like,
I love that T-shirt.
I love that. You're not going to fall down. Gosh, I'll be doing this with probably the next year or so. Well, maybe Daddy will be there. Grabbing onto that T-shirt, you're standing right next to them. You're not going to let go. They're getting on. They probably even have, in the very beginning, let's see, it's mechanical, meaningful, communicative, right? So you've got maybe even the training wheels are still on. It's a very controlled environment. They're doing it in your driveway. They're right there with you. So you're hanging on. That's our guided practice. They're practicing. But at some point, you can't stand next to the kid on the bike for the rest of his life, just like we can't stand next to our students for the rest of our lives. I can't say, oh, you're going to Mexico. That's great. You know what? I'll just go. I'll sit inside your backpack and I'll travel with you. And I'll make sure everything's in a controlled environment and you're safe. And we can't. We have to let go. Just like Dad eventually has got to let go of this kid and let him try it on his own. Now, okay, so Dad lets go. Here goes independent practice. And inevitably, kid falls down, right? And that happens to our students. We've done all this practice in class, and then we say, okay, try it on your own in this new, way. And sometimes our kids, they fall off. They don't quite do it. But we get them back up. We might have to do a little more guided practice and then keep going with the independent practice until they're writing it on their own. So that's the analogy there. That's a good one, huh? All right. Independent practice. So what's the objective? It's to provide our students with the opportunity to use what they've learned in a new, meaningful, and culturally appropriate ways to generate their own language, to communicate, to do this on their own. The teacher is, a lot of times you do independent practice in the classroom. Sometimes it's at home, sometimes in a group situation, sometimes individually. The teacher's role is to step back, and the students are now trying this on their own. Independent practice, independent of the teacher. And then the student is to internalize and try to personalize this new material. Okay. So what is guided independent practice? They are activities that require students to move beyond the models and templates in order to interact independently with the concepts to be mastered, very open-ended. So, and we'll have some examples here in a little bit. Again, in the target language, just like all along, we've done comprehensible input, guided practice, and independent practice should be in the target language. This always makes me laugh when I jump from guided practice to independent practice, and I tell the students, for example, let's say they've read a little story, and I want them to try and write a paragraph about the main character that they just read about. Just take what you read and put it in Spanish and write a little, or maybe we watched a little YouTube video and I want them to describe the person using simple adjectives. They always laugh at, well, can I write it in English? Like, no, you can do this in Spanish now. But they always like, but wait, I can do that on my own? Yeah, you try it. And then they're surprised. Oh yeah, I guess I can do that. And the sentences aren't always perfect, but yeah, in the target language. Do we do it in Spanish? Okay, should be tied to the unit objective and assessment again, and have personal significance, culturally authentic, include an element of spontaneity, and have a meaningful purpose. So here again, the context, sometimes this is homework, but be careful that it's not guided practice homework. Just because I give my student a worksheet with 100 verb conjugations and I say, do this at worksheet at home, that does not make it independent practice. That is still mechanical guided practice, even if they're doing that on their own at home. Does that make sense? The guided practice. Independent practice would be something that's very open-ended, more like a communicative guide. Oh, yes, I see yeses. People are responding. All right, thank you. So this, it's very open-ended. It's like the communicative guided practice, but I've given them absolutely no structures, and now they're doing this on their own. Sometimes at home. I would say it's, with the level 1 classes, it's harder to do because they're very dependent on their teacher to do anything. But definitely when you start moving up in the levels, level 2, level 3, you can assign things for them to do at home. But careful with Google Translate and the internet and all. Oh gosh, a kid the other day during class took out his cell phone, took a picture of what we were reading, and it translated it. I forget what it was called. It was called Scan and Translate, I think, the app for his phone. And he was so proud of him. Oh, look, I just clicked a button. I translated it. I read it and it just didn't quite make sense. But
it's like the worst translate I've ever seen.
I know.
It does such a bad job.
Yeah.
Yeah. A kid tried to show me this week, just like not as an assignment, but just to like show me something cool or something. And I was like, that's the worst I've ever seen.
That's pretty bad. And a lot of times
like it translated the verb to love with the noun to love, which is going to be way rarer than the verb. It was just super lame.
Yeah. I don't know though, but give it 20 years. I'm afraid that it probably will be pretty good in 20 years. What will we be doing?
Well, I always tell my kids it's like, yeah, Google Translate's improved a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but on its best day, it's not word reference. So why don't you just use the thing that I tell you is better? And
what's that?
Actually look at a dictionary and choose a word that is the right word. But,
I'm going to type that in there. If you go to YouTube and type in Fresh Prince Google Translate, I always show that to my students before I ask them to first do an independent practice, where they're going to be writing a paragraph about themselves, because we have Chromebooks now for our class, which is great. But then they sit there behind the, well, how do I say this? And how do I say that? And then they go to Google Translate and they put all sorts of weird things in there. So before I even pass out the Chromebooks, I have them watch that YouTube video. Have you seen that? It's Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I don't know. It's really funny, and it shows what happens if you take something like that song from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, you throw it into Google Translate, and then put it back into English, and it sounds hilarious. And then they put it in and they try a couple other languages with it. They put it back into English and they sing it again. And they do this a couple times, and by the time you get to the end, the song it makes no sense whatsoever. It's hilarious though, and the kids get the point. They go, oh, so it translates some things kind of, but it doesn't get the whole. And then after that, I pass out the Chromebooks and I tell them, write this paragraph, and they don't go to Google Translate, or they'll raise their hand first and, can I look up this word, or how do you say this word? And now they're asking me for words versus, I'm just going to type my whole paragraph in English and then have it. They know. And I actually put it into my rubrics as well. There's a spot in my rubric that says something about, using vocabulary and structures that we have covered in Spanish 1. Now, I know I have native speakers, but I don't have a lot in Spanish 1. So I do talk to them. I'm like, use what you know. It's okay. But I always tell them it's super obvious when you use Google Translate, and you're going to get marked down here in the rubric. So that once I do that, I have much better projects, which moves into the next context. So some homework, but not guided practice, mechanical homework, some project work that they do. And the students generally work alone for independent practice, but sometimes small groups. So, okay, oops, click. So this is also in the video. If you've gone through the module, one of you said you had, was it Julia? I can't remember. You've seen this another analogy here. Guided practice is what gets us to the final assessment. And in between, so you've got on one side, you've got all the guided practice you've done with your students, and at the end you have the final assessment. And in the middle here is the independent practice. They're trying to walk across that bridge on their own. But what happens is when there isn't any independent practice and I'm trying to get them from the guided practice to the final assessment and I haven't given them enough independent practice, then this is what happens. The bridge collapses, the students fall down, they drown, they never make it to the final assessment. Obviously, my students don't really drown, but they feel like they are. And a lot of times when I see that happen, I go, oh gosh, we did all this stuff and we did all this practice in class, and I forgot to assign them something so they could try it on their own and they could before they got to the final assessment. So if you don't assign enough independent practice, yeah, that's what happens.
Yes. Happened. We had a meeting in the afternoon yesterday, and one of the new teachers had just assigned the first project and was appalled with the result, and it was obviously Google Translate. And how do we get them from not translating, etc.? And so stepping back into the lesson plans and looking at what was building up to this project that they were supposed to present and have completed on their own, this was the link. This was where it was really missing, that independent practice. And once it was clear that that was what was missing, it totally made sense that the results weren't what they wanted because they didn't have the support, or they didn't feel that they had enough support, so they just went to the buoy. Okay, I won't drown if I go to Google. So I love this image, Jen.
Oh, that's sad. But you're right. If I go to Google Translate, it'll solve all my problems. I'll give another example right now. In our Spanish 1 classes, I'm collaborating with another colleague. We both have a 4th period Spanish 1 class. And what we've decided to do for our final project is half of his students are going to come to my room and half of mine are going to his room. And they're going to have to interview their partner that day. They'll get about 20 minutes, interview their partner, write down information, and then present their partner to the class. And it's very basic things like his name is, and he is 15, and he likes to do this, and he's athletic, and so it's very simple, describing your partner and saying what they do and do not like to do, and their names and their age and I think their birthday. That's it. That's the whole thing. So that's the final assessment. We want to know that they can ask their partner these questions in Spanish. Can they come up with a presentation that quickly and then stand up in front of the class and speak? So that's it's very spontaneous, right? Communicative, something they might do in real life. Talk to someone and then present them to a group of people. We do that all the time as teachers. Seems like a teacher thing. Go talk to your partner and then present them to the class. So the problem here is we've done all these guided practices along the way. In my class, I taught them how to say, maybe just practice with 3 simple adjectives. I am funny, I am nice, I am whatever. We've done that kind of practice. We've practiced asking those questions. What do you like to do? I like to. But in the middle there, just over the last 2 days, I've been doing more independent practice with my student. At first, it was very scaffolded. I had a list of the questions, told them exactly what to ask, and then I had them write a paragraph. They wrote out their presentation. But slowly, I've moved the scaffolding away, So the next day I gave them the list of questions and I had them write out the paragraph, but there was no sentence starters or structures or anything. And then the next day I was like, okay, well, here's the questions. And I don't want you to write a paragraph this time. I want you to speak. And then the next day it was, okay, these are the questions. You're not going to take any notes. Or eventually I got rid of the questions altogether and I just had bullet points, words that said name, age, birthday, the things that I wanted them to say, interview their partner, and then speak it. So slowly all the scaffoldings would move it away. And that very last step was my independent practice. So next week, Tuesday, when they get to class, they're going to go find someone they've never talked to and then present them to the class. And there's our final sentence. Does that make sense? How it went from guided practice, the very basic, sentence structures and saying I am funny and what are you like and what do you like to do, to just bigger and broader. That makes sense. Yes, I see a yes. Thank you. I'd like some head nods, but even if you're nodding, I can't see. So yes is helpful. Thank you, Erica. All right, here. So that's an example of something I'm doing in my class right now to get them to the final assessment. But here are two examples from the Model Final Project, this is also on, I was about to say the drive, SAC-CT. So here is, and these are Christine's activities. So here we go. Her unit that she put online was all about the family. And so here's activity 1 of her independent practice, just 2 examples. The first one, who's who in this family? I think you can see my mouse. Here's what the teacher does. They locate a text in the target language that includes the names of members of a family and how they're related to each other. They provide the instructions, read the description, design a diagram that shows the family's names and labels. And what are the students doing? Well, they're reading the text. She wrote here in pairs, trios, and then they're creating a visual diagram poster to draw the structure of the family. And then they're going to show it to the teacher or classmates and tell the teacher 1 to 2 family members in relation to that person. So this is, she even put it up at the top, reading. And independent practice, again, the examples I gave were writing and speaking, but independent practice can also be a reading assignment, just like this. So she has this important bubble, however, important to think about before you design the independent practice. How is this activity preparing students to demonstrate proficiency in the functional objectives and assessment? Here was her objective in her assessment and what they'll be doing. And there we go. Any questions on this activity? I'll move on to, I see some no's. Okay. Here's her second activity, and it's called a mystery.
I think Erica had a question.
Oh, I see a no in the text box. Is there a...
Okay.
I don't know. So here's the second one, a mystery drawing. And after this, we're going to try to come up with some of these on our own. Again, same unit, family unit. And here's the activity. The teacher divides a piece of paper in half, front and back, and they draw a diagram showing 6 to 8 relatives and yourself. Label the names and languages and keep it a secret from their partner. So we've got an A-B activity. Partner A introduces himself in the target language, of course, and describes the family relations to partner B, who diagrams that on their paper. So that is what the teacher has to do, give the instructions and prepare that activity. And then the students draw their own family tree with names and label it. And with their partner, they dictate, say, the names and relationships, and their partner, while the partner draws and labels it. So I'm describing my family to my partner is describing it to me, and there we go. Paper, pencil. Any questions on that one? I like this down here at the bottom. Considerations for exceptionality. Gifted students can be encouraged to share the diagram with one or more partners. I frequently have, especially in a level 1 class, this term I have 5 students on 504 plans and 1 ex-special ed student. And so I feel like I'm always moving at a very slow pace because I don't want to lose them. I don't want to leave anyone behind. But then I have, and the way I've set up my seating is I have all of the kids that are getting 100% or over 100% on all of their tests and all their projects. I have them sitting in the back row, and because you're supposed to supposedly pair people that are close, so A's students together. And in the past, I've always paired like A students to a C student. Oh, the A student will help the C student. But what really happens is a lot of time the C student starts to rely on the A student, and the A feels like they're having to dumb everything down, and they get resentful that they're sitting next to the C. So what I've learned over the last several years is to pair like people together, C's together, B's together, A's together. So my A students sit in the back, and a lot of times I'll walk around to the back and say, if you guys finish, you're going to switch partners and interview the next person, and then try it again. And so I can be up front with my students that are really struggling. I put my TAs up front too to help those students, and I'll go walk back to the back and, okay, you did it? All right, do it again. So I like how she put that down here in her lesson plan, that she encourages them to try it again, share it with a different person, try it again. And moving on. Any questions on that before we try our own? And I click.
I was just going to comment on the fact that what would make this different from a guided practice where you would have the A and the B already printed is that every student will have a different answer, and that's where that key, you don't know what the answer is going to be or what the tree is going to look like or mother's name or whether there's a stepmom. That would be the independent element of it. And many times you'll get with a textbook the printed form of this type of activity, but that doesn't make it independent because the student is not creating something completely on his own that then he's showing, and they all look different. That's what I had to say.
Thank you, Daphne. All right. So I've shared a link in the chat box. Go ahead and click on it. I don't see anyone there with me yet. And you should see, oh, someone's popping up, and it is, there we go. Got some funny little animal people popping up. Oh, that's an interesting picture. There we go, our canimal, neon cat, anonymous fox, penguin. All right, we're all here. Okay, now, did I leave anyone off? I've got Julia, Santa, and Erika. I've left places for you to write. Daphne, if you'd like to, I'll leave. Carol, would you like a box? I'll put Daphne in there. So what we're going to do now is try to come up with an independent practice activity for this objective. And in the box to the right of your name, you can start typing, like I did right there. Here's the objective for our unit. By the end of this unit, students will be able to talk about their daily routine for the homework. Daily routine for the morning, what they do to get ready for school and evening, and what they do to get ready for bed. So by the end of the unit, that's what I want them to be able to do. Talk about daily routine. I wake up, I brush my teeth, I get dressed, those types of things. Daily routine in the morning, and then at night, I take a shower. Now, all of the other parts of this lesson have come into place, right? And setting the stage, comprehensible input. They've done lots of guided practice, practicing, in this case, reflexive verbs, saying, I brush my teeth, I brush my hair, all those things. They practice, practice, practice. So now I want them to the very end to be able to just talk about their daily routine. What do they do to get ready for school and at night? So what is something you might try with your students for independent practice? Is it going to be a homework assignment, a project, to get them to try to use this information on their own? Any questions? Okay. So go ahead and feel free to, I'm going to give about, 5 minutes or so, and go ahead. And if you have any comments or questions, feel free to type in the chat box or use your microphone and start thinking. And that was a big task. But this is something you might actually be able to use. For us, this is level 2. It's really quiet, so I'm only going to guess that everyone is thinking.
I'm trying to, this is Erica, I'm trying to click on my box and start typing, but nothing is happening, so.
Okay, sorry, I'm gonna refresh. Try again.
Okay.
I think
I just see a little blue box in there, but
okay, I think it's working now. Hey, there we go. I see Julia typing.
yeah.
Erica, is it working now?
Oops. Hold on. You have like a little color. Oh, okay, let me try now. I just see your name popping all over the place, like Señora Gio.
There I am, Sarah. Someone just turned on.
No, it's not.
Me neither.
I see the anonymous hedgehog is typing. Whoever anonymous hedgehog is, I think it's Julia. Maybe try closing it and opening it again. Click again.
Okay.
There we go. I see the moose is on. Santa's on. And the panda's on. Hi, Daphne, the panda. Very cute. Anonymous panda. I had the sharing settings wrong the first time. What would an independent practice be for this? It's a good idea, Julia.
I'm still trying. It's just taking.
I'm so happy little baby Daniel's been sleeping this whole time. Like at some point he's gonna wake up, but he's been good. Daily routine. This is really, this is the part of the lesson. I love this part because you can be so creative and come up with all sorts of things. Here's what I'm gonna do while you guys are doing that. You can see my screen probably at the same time. Oh, let's see. Do I have to sign in? Uh-oh.
Jennifer, can you type in Erica's box? I can't.
Let me see here. Erica's box. Hello. Yes, I can. But I think she had to close the window and then open the window. This is where, when I get stuck with independent practice ideas, I go to Pinterest. So I'm going to type in la rutina diaria. And there's always a ton of ideas. So we've got reading, writing, listening, speaking activities.
My screen is still just saying loading, so I haven't got in yet.
But the panda's going to be a little heavy on eating activities and a little light in hygiene. Cleaning.
Mr. Bean.
Yeah, Morgan uses a Mr. Bean clip because obviously he never talks, so you can narrate him
Or
whenever you
right there, or she's not gonna come and get you.
In German. But it's a, yeah. I love Mr. Bean. He's so cute. Oh wow, he's still in bed. Oh, here we go.
I don't know. Don't ask me. I'm not gonna talk to you. I'm busy right now.
Mr. Bean. Oh, Pinterest could take all of life. I want to. You can all still see my screen, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you can buy it. Let's go back here. Oh, Erika. Erika, are you able to type?
I am not. I'm even trying to send you guys a little note on the air on the chat box, and all I could get is some words in. I don't know what's wrong.
I see that.
It wouldn't.
I.
I keep. It keep.
What are you
When you
typing
told me
on?
to, my little laptop.
Huh.
This is the one I take uh, when I go to classes at Sac State. Same thing. It's just like frozen or something. I don't know why.
Oh.
Well, you could think of something, or if you want to write something down on a piece of paper and then share after
Okay.
you're done, that'll work.
Okay.
And so I'm just thinking. So while you're thinking, I think that one of the hardest things is clarifying what's the difference between guided practice and independent practice. Okay, I get that they're doing it by themselves, but is anything they do by themselves independent practice? Well, no. And I think this little picture I just found on Pinterest, it's a picture of a man doing his daily routine. And if I were, for example, to say, okay, students, here's this picture, take it home and write a paragraph about what he does for his daily routine. Would that or would that not be independent practice? That makes sense?
I think it's still guided because they're not coming up with what he's doing themselves.
Exactly. Yeah, they're writing
So, I
a
mean,
paragraph
than
by
if it was
themselves.
written down, I guess. I mean, the pictures are, it's more interpretive, but it's still, I mean, there's only you could pick between two verbs. Like you could decide to take a shower or to shower oneself, but that's like not a radical interpretive act.
Exactly. Thank you. That was that Julia?
Sorry.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's what I'm trying to show is that yes, they're doing this by themselves, but it's guided practice because there's really only one right answer, and it's not even kind of spontaneous. We see the picture, we know what the person's trying to say. There's no, but if instead I gave them a little comic strip and they just had to draw in what they do and then write a paragraph about it, now I've moved into more independent practice.
Yeah, this is Julie again. That's what I do for my assessment for this one is I have them just narrate their day with doing their own sequence. So
Independent practice. Go wait about one more minute here, and then Daphne, if I could have you speak out first after the minute, and then Julia, and then Santa, and then Erika in about a minute or so. Oh, Daphne, I just saw your note there. Your husband is cutting wood. Okay. I'm guessing it's loud. I know that sound. That's the worst sound. 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning. Sometimes I hear that. Sometimes earlier. Some loud neighbors. No, I didn't hear yours. It's okay.
I think this topic can be challenging because you don't often talk about your daily routine with people.
I know. So when is a real context that we would really do that? I just thought of one. Any others?
I,
Daily routine.
I was thinking if you have getting ready for uh, your college roommate situation, what is your routine there and then? And that might be important to know.
Mm-hmm.
Or getting ready to go to a school dance.
If you're
That's typical in the morning.
compatible.
It's a good point. I could see
Oh,
how
yeah, that's
write, have their schedule or write a little something or even make a little video of themselves, and then if everybody in the class did that, we could see, well, these two would make good roommates, or these two would make good roommates, or those two wouldn't.
And that would be more realistic than probably just talking about your morning routine. That's
You could even be
we don't normally. You're right. We don't normally share that. Other than everybody knows I need my cup of coffee in the morning before I talk.
I was thinking maybe even sometimes speaking with the doctor, says, "What's wrong?" Well, are you getting enough sleep? What time do you get up in the morning? When do you do that
That's a good one.
type of thing?
I find that this is Julia. I find that this chapter also ends up talking about like babysitting stuff a lot. So when you're talking about kids'
That's good.
routines, because that's a situation that you can end up with if you're doing caring for children
It's
and
true.
describing their routines and
Or as
stuff.
an au
Yeah, that's
pair
really good.
situation.
Yeah.
That's
I
true. I'm
like
always
that.
very specific. I mean, kids are all about routine and getting them in, especially that bedtime routine and brush their teeth and get a cup of water, go to the bathroom and read a book and all those things. Yeah, that's true. Okay, so Daphne, why don't you go ahead and share out first?
Okay, well, I actually went on the Panda Express here because I got inspired, but I really do think that sometimes my students have a hard time working with negatives. So I thought that would be he doesn't take a shower or versus what you do, but also he never takes a shower. So would expand a little bit more. Um, and I thought that if every student had a different animal, might be a good way, maybe not on the unit, but maybe as a review, just a little bit different perspective. So I thought that might inspire them to talk and want to share and maybe learn something.
And Julia, what's yours?
Um, so, we tend to just describe a typical day, but I thought to mix it up for different types of practice. I like talking about doing your weekend day or a holiday day or when you're sick or a day where something goes wrong. So that's a little bit of variety. This is a thing that is a good one for pen pals if they have them or even imaginary ones. And then when I've done this chapter like a month ago, interviewing their partner and then comparing their routines, and that can be, written or oral.
Thank you. And Santa, I can't remember if you can talk or not. You can
Okay, so my students have a lot of problems with telling their daily routine. So that's what I thought it would be a good idea to ask a family member. So now they can listen to what they do or get an idea, and then they feel comfortable sharing with the others or sharing their daily routine.
So interviewing a family member at home.
Well, it could be representing different generations. So how have things changed, or have they?
Yes,
I like that.
because they get, oh, I don't know what to say. I don't know what I do in the morning. So if they
And
ask another person at home, not in the classroom, then they'll feel comfortable, I think.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Erica?
Okay, so this is what I came up with all this technology problems. I would mm, make it where one of the students, it's a reporter, and so he wants to find out or she wants to find out what do teenage kids do for their daily routine. So they would do a video where they would go and pretend they're a reporter and said, can you tell the rest of the world what your daily routine is like as a teenager? Because my students, every time I mention final project, they always want to do a video.
Yeah.
And so I think it would kind of get them from not being so, oh, I don't like to talk about my daily routine, then, oh, we're doing a video? Cool. And,
Hmm.
get some more creativity into it. Then, but that's what I came up with.
I like that. I'm gonna type in a little bit. What you said here. Um, Interviewing other teens about their daily routine and making it into a video.
Yeah. So they would have to come up with questions on their own
Hmm.
as the person being the reporter.
Um,
Could also make the pollster, I mean, the reporter a pollster, because there's so much emphasis on polling right now. Make a survey of the class.
Yeah. And you know what, Doctor? Girl, when we do like little surveys, like um, Melissa Robinson showed me how to do it. So where they could do little surveys in the classroom with their phones, they love it. So that's a good idea.
hmm.
And how Common Core also, if you could add a little chart at the end displaying the results for the classroom, and then maybe compare the different classrooms and maybe the different age groups or the different routines for masculine or students that are male versus students that are female. That would be a great tie-in to a Common Core type of activity
Yeah. Or
also.
even comparing it with, let's say two of us, me and a coworker, try this as a um, final project because we're trying to get out. Me and Melissa are trying to get out of the multiple choice thing, final exam, and do like a final project. And so, just comparing like this is what this class got versus our class, or because they're always asking, what is the other class doing? What are the other classes doing? And why are we doing this? And why are they already doing that? But
That's good. I definitely like that. The video idea too. I think that makes it more fun. Um, See, that's what this is where I hope we try to in our PLTs, our professional learning teams. When all the Spanish 1 teachers get together, or the 2s or the 3s get together, we try to just bounce ideas off each other. Okay, well, what should we do for this unit right here? And we want them to be able to do this. Okay, well, what can we, do along the way? And this is where we just sit and just start creating. And we usually do exactly this. We have a little Google Doc, and we're all just sitting and talking and typing all at the same time. And usually by the end of an hour or so, we can have some sort of outline for a project that we then go out and try and then revise the next year. And this is definitely one of my favorite parts of the effective instructional sequence. Coming up with different independent practices and sharing. Daphne, are you the anonymous duck now, Daphne?
Um,
Daphne Duck.
Daphne. Oh, because someone wrote the roommate scenario is the realistic, authentic one, right? Preparing for college. It's something they'd probably be interested in, oh, right. Even our freshmen and sophomores, I won't be living at home forever. In a couple of years, I'll be on my own. And that definitely.
yes, it changed me when I logged in. It gave me Daffy Duck.
So that's who you are. Okay. I was just thinking to add on to the roommate scenario too. I mean, not all of our students will be out there being exchange students, but if they hosted an exchange student in their house, they might want to videotape themselves and their different family members getting ready in the morning, and okay, this is what our morning looks like, and send it off to the exchange student who could do the same thing and send a video back, and I mean that kind of thing.
And that would be great too, because then they're talking about the whole family and how the family is organized in the morning and in the evening, which is also very culturally centered and important.
Mm-hmm.
If they got if we could get a real video, like Erica said, from a family with a potential exchange student coming in as to what they do differently, maybe.
Yeah. Something, my dad, we just got him a new computer for Christmas, and we finally taught him how to use FaceTime. And he loves it because he can now see, he's wheelchair bound and he can't really get out to my house very often. And the other day I just took my phone and I walked around the house, and I just showed him what we were all doing, and it was right after dinner time, so he could see, kids getting in their PJs and brushing their teeth, and here's the baby, and he's doing this, and I just kind of walked around the house with my phone, and my dad thought it was so amazing, but I mean, that's exactly what I was doing, was basically showing him our evening routine, and this is what we do, Dad, and I mean, that's kind of neat. I didn't record it, but anyway. Oh, Daphne, you typed in uh-oh. Was that old? Anyway. Okay. So
Oh, that was related to the duck that I changed from panda to duck.
I like that document. I think we came up with a lot of good ideas. And really, again, this is something I think it's fun to do within department, is sit down and let's make this unit better, because I mean, we each came up with our own ideas, but then we were able to build on each other's ideas, and I love that part. Okay, going back to, here's our presentation. I'll type in here. Okay, still working? Okay, further questions. Type in the chat window or use the microphone. You don't have to raise your hand. Any other questions on, I'm going to delete that right now. Independent practice. What I would like to see actually right now is either type into the chat box or speak out. What, in your own words, is the difference between independent practice and guided practice? Go ahead and either type in a response or speak out. Guided practice, independent practice. What's the difference?
Okay, this is Erica. I might not be able to type. So
It's okay.
to me, guided practice, it's teacher and students still kind of working together, and students don't really need to understand completely the language. But in independent practice, it's not so much the teacher now, just the student, but the student does need to be able to understand the language at that point.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Can someone add?
Did you guys hear me?
Yeah, I heard that was great. Can someone add anything
Okay.
to that, or have a different approach? If you're explaining it to a colleague, that's.
I think the line between communicative guided practice and independent practice is fuzzy.
Right.
Things can go back and forth between one and the other.
Mm-hmm. I really like that bridge image again, Jen, because I think, and how you explained it with the scaffolding, that you're building, but sometimes you go back a little bit, but that strengthens the moving forward to the final assessment. And I think it is incremental. And sometimes that fuzzy line is where you're teetering and you're hesitant. As a student, we can see that I'm not sure if this is going to be right when their little hands go up, and they're hesitating, but that's a great moment also. And that bicycle when they're just like, oh, don't let go of me, but they want to go.
And that's exactly, it was on Wednesday during our collaboration time that this other Spanish teacher and I decided, well, how about I take half of your students and you take half of mine, and then they really won't know who their partner is. They practiced with 4 or 5 other people in their own class, but who knows who it'll be for the final project. And so when I came back to my class on Wednesday after our meeting, said, okay, guys, this is what we're going to do. They were not happy. That's too hard. What do you mean? We're not going to know who it is until right we can't do that. They really did kind of explosion of. And so the next day I thought, oh gosh, okay, well, I need to give them more guided practice and move it towards communicative and then independent to get them to that assessment. I knew as a teacher I needed to give them more. So the next day when we came back to class, I said, well, here's what we're going to do. You were all so afraid, and let's make this easier. We're going to do this not a couple times in class, but 5 times. And then you'll be ready, right? So then we just, I don't know. I think they were kind of like, well, but that's a lot of work. What do you mean? Oh, okay. But now they'll be ready. I've given them the independent practice. So Julia, I see you typed here in the box. Guided practice provides students with both structures and content to communicate, whereas in independent practice, students are choosing, yeah, that's a good point, choosing their structures or ones we've learned and providing their own personal content to communicate with others. That's beautiful. All right. And then let's see here. Oh, my mouse is. Santa, guided practice students will work with the help of the teacher. Yes. Independent practice students will work by themselves, but at this point, they should know how to do it. Exactly. We're letting go of the bike. Here we go. Let's go. Any other questions on that before we move? It seems like all 3 of you got this. All right, so we've got a couple minutes here. Here's the final project again. This is what we've worked through. Modules 1 through 3 were all about the teaching context, the backwards lesson design, the objective, the standards. There was a whole lesson on standards. Module 4, we worked on setting the stage, comprehensible input. 5, guided practice. And for the final project, we'd like you to come up with 3 activities, 1 mechanical, 1 meaningful, 1 communicative. And here we are right now in independent practice. For this part of the final project, we'd like you to come up with 2 different activities. It would be great if you could come up with different types of activities, maybe not 2 writing activities, maybe a writing and a speaking, or listening, reading, or different types of independent practice activities. And then application extension we'll be talking about later. Let's see here. And there's the template. I'm going to skip ahead to, did someone say something? I'm going to skip ahead to not setting the stage, comprehensible input, guided practice. Where is it? Guided practice number 2, guided practice number 3, independent practice. Okay, so this, I showed this earlier too. This is the form that you'll be filling out. Just describe the activity. I'm going to skip ahead. We already went through this. Are there any questions on the final project?
This is Derek. I don't have questions
Okay.
yet, anyways.
Yet. Wait until we get into it. That's fine. All right, then. Here. Sorry, was there a question?
Oh, also, I was just going to mention the office hours. If people do have questions, will be, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that Wednesday the 17th?
Check my calendar here.
Let me check.
17th. Yes, 5:30. 5:30 to 6:30.
So I just wanted to, because sometimes questions don't come up now, but they may come up a little later.
Right, while you're working on the project. All right. Okay, so last thing before we leave here. Oh, you don't have to raise your hand. Come up with 1 idea for an independent practice activity you can or will use for whatever you're teaching right now. And either type it in the chat box or speak. You can use the mic to speak out. Trying to think. I just shared one for Spanish 1, what I was talking about with the interviewing and presenting a partner. I'm also teaching AP right now, so I'll share what we're doing for AP. Obviously, I'm trying to get them ready to pass the exam. That will be totally independent. That is their final assessment. Did you pass the test? And what I do along the way, they have these cultural comparisons they have to do. And so, for example, their independent practice, they're doing it right now this weekend, is they're coming up with a cultural comparison presentation on the use of technology in their target culture and their current culture. And they're using a Google slide presentation. And I've used Google Classroom to share it out. And but it's basically just an empty Google slide, and they have to fill it in with images of, for example, they could pick social media and how is it used here in the United States versus the target culture. And they get to pick any Spanish speaking country that they'd like. And they'll be coming up, doing all the research on their own, whatever they're interested in technology wise. It could be about hospitals and doctors or ethics or sustainability. There's just the topic, it's huge, anything. And so they're working right now on their own. And then when they come to class on Tuesday, they'll be presenting these Google slides of comparing, contrasting the two countries. So that's what my APs are doing. Would anyone like to share out speaking or typing? What are your students doing right now? Raise your
Okay, I'm gonna talk because I can't type. What I'm doing right now, my Spanish threes, I gave them a scudo, and they supposed to using their vocabulary and grammar that we use throughout the chapter. The chapter is about la amistad and their personalities. And so they're supposed to fill in the scudo with, I gave them certain questions, like in one square I said, ¿quién te entiende mejor? And so they're supposed to fill it in with certain pictures, no words. And so every square in the scudo has different questions. Like there's another box will say, ¿quién te apoya o te ha apoyado en tu vida? And so once they fill in the scudo with pictures, then they're going to be presenting their scudo, and it's going to be considered their oral presentation on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm doing right now.
Sounds good. Thank you. It looks like Santa cannot hear us. It's a good thing we're at the end here. She made it just about to the end. I think she's going to be typing in an answer, and that was Erika. Julia, what are you working on right now with your classes?
Just thinking about independent practice. I think that making, we're in kind of the cafe unit, so making their own menu I think could fall under the independent practice category. I mean, they're limited by, the things that we've learned, but the end of the assessment I do one where I dress as a waiter and they have to order from me from a menu of just pictures and ask the price and do different things. But I was thinking I could add, if they made their own menus, then they could practice doing that with the menus that they've made too. Mm-hmm. And then, they're going to end up with the one that I give them, but they could practice by making their own too.
That's a great idea. Daphne, what are you up to?
Too many things. Let's see. I was actually thinking of my threes right now. They're working on the friendship unit, and they just finished watching Le Ballon Rouge, which is the Red Balloon, a French classic movie. Very short.
That's a good one. I remember that.
And it's a great starter talking about the importance of friendship and who's your friend and things like that. So I'm not quite ready for my independent practice yet, but I am thinking what I had planned, and I might modify this slightly now that I heard Erica's like coat of arms idea with the people that support you and such. They were to do a collage, like a pictorial that they're going to talk about and explain who these people or what the value of friendship means to them and in which ways it's important. And they were to describe one time when they felt alone and one time when they felt supported. So that's kind of where the independent practice was going to be after a myriad of other little stepping stone activities where they're answering each question independently, but then at the end they would come up with that. And then the final assessment is being able to discuss their best friend and or best friends and the role of friendship in their life.
Aww. I love that. Friendships. I say Santa is typing in here, and I'm not sure if she can hear us. I'm going to see. Can you hear us yet? Maybe not, but here's what she's typing. Spanish for native speakers 1. They're studying artists. Velázquez, Goya, Picasso, and Guernica. And then Carlo, and that's great. So I wonder what they are doing for independent practice. I'll put that in there. And while she's typing, it's a little tricky when we can't hear each other. But it's a little tricky. I think we've just about finished our meeting for today then. So I'm going to just remind everyone, like Daphne did earlier, that our office hours will be February 17th, 5:30 to 6:30. It's a Wednesday. If you have any questions on the final project, then come visit us. Any questions clarifying independent practice, guided practice, let us know. As you work through the module, you'll see some sample presentations. There's a video one and video homework like the others. Yeah. And I see Carol's typing. Okay. Will they tell their portraits are like? Why their portraits are like?
So why?
So why their portraits are like Frida Kahlo? Oh, if they make their own portraits?
They're going to do, yeah, they're doing autorretratos a la Frida Kahlo,
That makes sense.
he said. And I'm just thinking if they describe why they think their portrait is like Frida's.
And she said yes. Okay, great. Everybody answered. We all got our ticket out the door. Okay. Well, it was great, all of you, and we look forward to seeing you at the next online module 7 if we don't see you at office hours. And Daphne will be presenting that. And thank you again for coming. Have a great day.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Hello, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
Great set.
Bye.
Here we go. Okay. I'm going to stop the recording.